Hello everyone, welcome to ManageEngine OpManager Plus's free training series. We are so glad to have you all here. Let me introduce myself. I'm Vishak and I have been working in ManageEngine for over 2 years now. I'll be the trainer for this season's OpManager Plus free training. This is a 5-part free training series for ManageEngine OpManager Plus. The first 3 parts focus on basic network monitoring and management, while the fourth and fifth parts explore IT operations management and full stack observability. We covered getting started with OpManager Plus on the first part on January 28th. And afterwards, on the second part, we talked about monitoring the network and IT infrastructure. In this part, which will conclude the basic network monitoring and management subsection of the webinar, we'll talk about setting up alarms, reports, and network maps. On the fourth part, we'll talk about advanced IT operations management, where we'll discuss the traffic configuration, firewall, and IP address management capabilities of OpManager Plus. On the fifth part, on February 25th, we'll talk about application and user experience management, wherein we'll conclude the full stack observability module of this webinar series. So before starting, let me quickly explain for those of you who are joining today what the difference is between OpManager Plus and OpManager. OpManager Plus is a unified full stack monitoring solution. As such, you get all the features that are mentioned here by default with OpManager Plus. However, if you're just interested in some of these features, you can choose OpManager and add the additional features you want as add-ons. In every other way, OpManager Plus and OpManager are the same. This training therefore applies to both the products. Without further wait, let's get into the third part, setting up alarms, reports, and network maps. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. We'll start off by talking about how you can set up alarms, including manual and adaptive alarms. After that, we'll talk about alarm management, incident response, how you can group various network elements together, notification channels, reports, and network mapping in OpManager Plus. So this is what we're going to cover in this part of the free training series. So let's get started. Alarms will inform you if something goes wrong in your network instantly so that you can take immediate corrective action. So here is a visual representation of the severity levels in OpManager Plus. OpManager Plus supports 4 severity levels. And in addition, there's a 5th severity level, which is for all clear. So the 4 of them indicate something that is wrong with your devices or your interfaces, while the 5th one conveys that everything has been sorted out. So we have 3 threshold severity levels, which indicates a level of something going bad. So there's attention, trouble, critical, which will basically indicate the seriousness of some metric crossing some thresholds. And after that, we have service down, which indicates that some service or URL or device, something that you're monitoring has gone down. And finally, we have the all clear, which is usually represented in green, which indicates that whatever has gone wrong has been cleared by now. So by default, each severity level is associated with a specific color. You have yellow for attention, orange for trouble, red for critical, service down is indicated using purple, and green is used to tell you that everything is clear. Now, you can also change these colors in OpManager Plus using a color customization that's called alarm severity customization. Change the colors, you can go to the product. So let me show this to you from a setup we have. Go to your setup. So these are the alarms. I'll explain all of this soon. Under settings, under general settings, you have system settings. Go to system settings. Here you have something called severity. Go to severity and you'll have an option to customize the colors for your alarms. So you can customize it using the hex code given here or by choosing it from a palette. So to change it, you just have to choose the option, and then once you do that, click save, and the colors will be updated successfully. This is how you can update your severity colors. Now let's go back. We just talked about how the different severity levels in OpManager Plus, and I mentioned 3 of them in particular, right? Attention, trouble, and critical. Now let's see how you can set up those threshold levels in OpManager Plus. So basically, these are applied to a particular monitored metric. For instance, if you're taking CPU utilization, you can set 3 levels of thresholds for CPU utilization. Let's say I set the attention level threshold as 60. If the monitored CPU utilization crosses 60%, then that alarm will be triggered with an attention severity, which will be yellow in color, and the alarm message will mention it as an attention severity. Similarly, I can set trouble and critical thresholds and also a rearm threshold. So let me show you how you can do this in the product. Go to settings. So like I mentioned in the last part of the webinar, there is a bulk way of doing it and an individual way of doing it. In bulk, you can configure thresholds at the device template level or a monitor template level. I'll show this to you from a monitor template level. Let's again take CPU utilization. So this particular CPU utilization monitor uses VI web service protocol to monitor the CPU usage, average CPU usage for a sort of VMware VMs, right? And it is applied to 18 devices. So if I want to set thresholds for this, I have to click the edit action. And here I'll go have a edit monitor tab. Here at the bottom, we'll have threshold details where I can configure the threshold. So I've already configured thresholds for this one. So here what it means is that this particular monitor measures CPU usage in a percentage. So, and it monitors it every 5 minutes. So what happens is if the attention crosses 40%, if the CPU usage crosses 40%, OpManager Plus will send you an alert with this particular message. The monitor's current value is whatever units that's been measured, and the threshold value that you configured is also the units that you mentioned here. So if it crosses 50%, you'll get a trouble alarm. And if it crosses 75%, you'll get a critical alarm. You can change it right here as you require it. Now, we have a rearm function here. What does rearm do? So rearm is basically what sets the alarm from the alarm state to the clear state. So here the attention threshold is 40%, right? So you have to put a rearm session below the attention severity. So what it means here is that if the monitored CPU usage percentage goes below 35%, the alarms that have been set as like in various severities that we discussed will be set as clear in the alarms tab. So, and the message with monitor is now back to normal and the current value will be shown. And here you have something called consecutive times. So this is basically, I explained this in the last part as well. How many number of times does this particular action have to occur for an alarm to be triggered? So you may not want to trigger an alarm if it's just a random occurrence, if it just spikes above 40 or 50 or 80 one time. So you can set that here, how many other times that you want this action to occur before you want an alarm, you can set right here. I'll just set it as 1 for the time being. Once I click save, this particular threshold will be the 18 devices that are associated with this particular monitor. You can do the same thing using device templates yourself. Go to device templates, choose a device, choose the monitor that's been given here, and then click on edit. So here, yeah, you'll be able to edit it for that particular device template and a template level itself. Now, if you want to do it for a device on a device level, you can go to your inventory tab, choose the device, go into the snapshot page, and again, go to the monitors in the snapshot page. Here, you'll be able to edit everything using the icons given. So edit icon given here will help you edit the thresholds manually for an individual device. So this is for memory usage average, and it's again measured in percentage. So this is how manual alarm thresholds work in OpManager Plus. We go back to the presentation. Now, once you set up a performance monitor, you'll also get a graph for that device. You can see the graphs. Again, here itself, next to the performance monitor itself, you have a graph icon. The graph icon will show you the monitored performance metrics in a format for your convenience. You can see all the graphs for a device in the summary part of the snapshot page and the graph icon. You'll be able to see all the graphs that is available for a device. And if there's like multiple inputs for a graph, you can see those as well. You can isolate those inputs separately and review them. So this is how graphs work in OpManager Plus. So that's how that works. Now we have something called adaptive thresholds. So basically, with manual thresholds, you would have to either apply values in bulk for groups of devices in monitor templates or using device templates. We just visited that, right? You would have to calculate it, or if you want to do it in a device level. So you can either do it on a device template level or a monitor template level, which means you'll be generalizing thresholds for a set of devices, or individually you can go to each snapshot page of an individual device and then configure thresholds there itself. Again, this would be very time consuming, right? The thing is, you can't apply thresholds. You can't generalize thresholds for a set of devices because each device will have different levels of normal. So thresholds are basically used to define what is normal performance for a device. And if those normal performance is like violated, then you need to get an alarm. That's how it works, right? But then normal performance varies based on the kind of device. Even for the same type of device, the normal performance varies. Let me explain with a simplified example. Let's say we have a wireless access point, and this particular wireless access point is located in a crowded break room. So the CPU utilization of that particular wireless access point will be high because a lot of people will be using it, right? So you would expect a higher CPU utilization. However, let's take another wireless access point that's located in a storage area of sorts. Here, the number of people accessing the wireless access point will be different, will be less. and therefore the CPU utilization itself will be less. And even for the same device, depending on the time of day, the CPU utilization would vary because of the peak traffic and other factors involved. So for a single device itself, throughout a single day, there will be variation in normal performance. And even for a same device type, the performance will vary based on how many people are using it and how many people are accessing the device and so on. So you can't apply static thresholds like this in this particular graph that I'm showing here. There's a static threshold applied over a dynamically varying thing like CPU percentage, right? So basically the normal performance would vary throughout the hours of a day, but the static threshold does not vary. So you will get false positives here. And then sometimes actual anomalies occur that will also be flagged by your static thresholds, but then even false positive will be flagged by your static thresholds. So what OpManager Plus does here is there's a feature called adaptive thresholds, which solves this by using ML to automatically, that is machine learning, to automatically calculate, set and update alarm thresholds. So adaptive thresholds works like this green line shown here. It'll analyze the past data for a particular device, and then it'll automatically adjust the thresholds so that normal performance is not flagged by your by OpManager Plus and actual anomalies are flagged. So let me show you how this works. OpManager Plus analyzes past device performance and it forecasts a normal performance value for all the performance metrics at all times. So for every device, each type of device, for every monitored performance metric, OpManager Plus will analyze the past data and it will forecast what a normal data is for that device. And this forecasted value is updated every hour. So it will always remain updated. Now, how can you set up the attention, trouble, and critical thresholds that I mentioned in this case? So that you can do by something called as a deviation value. So let me show you how this works in the product. Go to settings. Under monitoring settings, you have adaptive threshold settings. Choose that. So this button will enable adaptive threshold throughout the device. So if you enable this button, adaptive threshold, OpManager Plus will start collecting the data and analyzing it and setting up thresholds. So this is known as deviation. Deviation will basically determine the attention, trouble, and critical threshold. So whatever the forecasted value OpManager Plus calculates, the attention threshold will be 10% more than that. And for trouble will be 15% more than that. And critical will be 20% more than that. This is the default value set here. Now you can see all the enabled monitors right here. This currently it's enabled for these two monitors. If you want to enable it for more monitors, you can go to settings. Under monitor templates, you can choose that particular monitor template and enable adaptive threshold right here. Once you enable it, you'll be able to configure the deviation right here. You can configure it in terms of percentage, as I explained, or in terms of the value itself. So in terms of value, this particular monitor gathers memory utilization in terms of KB. That's a unit. So if you set the attention deviation as 5 and trouble deviation as 10 and critical deviation as 15, what happens is that whatever is the forecasted value of memory utilization, the attention alarm will be set at 5 KB more than that. Trouble will be kept at 10 KB more than that, and critical will be kept at 15 KB more than that. You can also set up your rearm right here. So this is how adaptive threshold and their deviation works. So how does this work? Like OpManager Plus requires at least 14 days of performance data to start providing accurate forecast values. So the best practice that we recommend is not to enable adaptive threshold as soon as you install OpManager Plus. Instead, you can give OpManager Plus a 2 weeks time to allow it to collect performance data to forecast adaptive thresholds effectively. So what else? What are the benefits of doing this? Basically, you'll get minimal alarm flooding. The unnecessary alarms that are caused by static thresholds flagging normal performance metrics are reduced. So if you put a static threshold, that's it. That's the only limit. If it goes above the static threshold, even if it is normal performance of the device, it'll still get flagged as an alarm, and you'll get a flood of alarms coming to your interface, into your OpManager Plus installation, right? And secondly, you get improved anomaly detection. Abnormal events that wouldn't usually stand out among this flood of alarms are easily flagged down. Then you have less manual effort because you don't have to calculate, set, and update thresholds for all the different kinds of devices in your installation, right? It will be done automatically. So that's how adaptive thresholds work. So now that we have covered how you can set up and trigger alarms of varying severities for your devices, we have covered 2 methods of setting up and triggering alarms using manual configuration and using AI. Now let's see where these alarms end up. So it's quite obvious. All the alarms that you trigger will be ending up in the alarms tab right here. So all the alarms will be shown right here. You have something called active alarms that is selected by default. These are the alarms that are still in some kind of fault severity state. If you want to see the alarms that are cleared as well, so you can see the cleared alarms as well here. This is called all alarms. So those alarms that are not yet cleared will be showing up in the active alarms tab. We also have other sources like Windows event logs, syslogs, SNMP traps, and from other modules of the advanced ITOM modules, which we'll be discussing in the fourth part of the free training series. So here on the left, you have something called the filter. So filters can be used to sort your alarms based on time, based on the severity that the alarms are occurring. So if I want to see just the attention severity alarms, I can click on this and only those will be filtered. Similarly, I can see the trouble ones, only the trouble ones, only the critical ones. So depending on your priorities, you can sort out your alarms. Another sorting option we have is through the source using trap count or event log count. You can also sort alarms using the category of the device itself, or whether they are acknowledged or unacknowledged right here. So another thing you have is you can choose your alarms and do a set of quick actions. You can like add a note to an alarm saying this particular alarm, like if your technician is working on this, you can add a note saying I'm working on this. Or if you want to give some insights to someone else who's also going to be working on this, you can add insights and add notes here. So notes will be successfully added to your alarm. Similarly, you can have other actions like you can perform a ping test on a device that's the source of this alarm. So this particular server will be pinged by OpManager Plus install server. You can do a trace route similarly. You can also clear an alarm. If you think this issue has been resolved, you can clear it. You can acknowledge it and unacknowledge it as required, and you can also delete it. And you have other options like workflow, test action, and all, which I'll explain soon. What else can you do? You can choose, like, let's say you want to isolate all the alarms that are marked as service down. So there's 8 alarms here that has been marked as service down. And I want to ping the devices that are showing this particular service down alarm. So I just need to select them all together and choose the ping option. And the OpManager Plus will run the ping test and it will show you the result of this in a table. So yeah, this is how alarms work. Now let's go. This is an alarms tab, and each of these alarms are called an alarm profile. So this alarm profile is basically all the information you have about this alarm and this particular device. Just choose an alarm and you'll go into the alarm profile. In the alarm profile, you'll be able to see the what caused the alarm. So the CPU utilization is 16%, while the expected value was only 3%. So it has overshot the adaptive threshold. And the current adaptive threshold value is 13%. And it will also list you additional context, like top 3 processes, like what is consuming most of the CPU and so on. Then you'll also see a history of alarms for this particular device. This is the device that has caused the alarm, and it will show you the history of alarms in this particular device here itself. So you'll be able to correlate and you'll be able to drive conclusions from this. Then you have the same action that I mentioned earlier, ping, trace, route, clear, and all. In addition to that, you also have additional actions like execute a workflow. This is an automated response feature in OpManager Plus, which I'll be discussing soon. You can test a notification action to see if this particular alarm is triggering a notification, which I'll also explain in this part. You can see the availability history of this device to see whether it's been misbehaving in the past. You can perform RDP and access the device through OpManager Plus itself. You can unmanage the device. You can test the monitor that has caused the alarm. You can click on the test monitor function and it will basically just poll that data again and it will fetch you the data. So you can do that. Give it just 1 second for it to fetch the data. Taking a bit longer than usual. We'll check back on this later. You can edit the thresholds here itself. You can configure notification, and you can mark, if you believe this alarm is a false alarm, you can mark it as a false alarm right here. So you'll be able to perform all this from the alarm profile tab. And you can go to the device snapshot page and review the device also as required. So this is how alarms work in OpManager Plus. So yeah, this is the alarm profile that I just discussed so far. So the alarm tab is a repository of all the alarms you got in your OpManager Plus installation, and you can click on the alarm to go to the alarm profile and review the alarm. So there's another thing called alarm escalation. Sometimes responding to alarms in a timely manner is vital to prevent SLA violations. But how can you ensure that OpManager Plus there's this feature to basically mark or acknowledge alarms, and you can clear alarms right here. This will indicate that someone is working on it and someone is clearing it. But then how can you ensure this for all the alarms that you receive? You'll be receiving a multitude of alarms on a daily basis, right? So how can you ensure this? So OpManager Plus has a feature called alarm escalation. How alarm escalation works is you will be able to filter alarms based on their severity, the category of device that is the source of the alarm, the group that is creating this, and everything. And then you'll be able to set rules saying if this particular alarm is not cleared within the time that I set, send a mail to someone concerned. Like it could be a senior network admin or whoever is like up the chain of command. So how alarm escalation works is you can go to settings, under configuration, you have alarm escalation rules. Select that and you can see the existing rules. Click on add rule. I'll explain how this works while I'm adding a rule. You can provide a name for this particular alarm escalation rule. And here you'll be able to filter the kind of alarms that should trigger this escalation rule. So I want to trigger only so you'll be able to choose the severity. So let's say I want to escalate alarms that are shown as service down because I don't want the services to be down for long. And a category of device. I have a set of critical servers, let's say. So I just want it to trigger 4 alarms that are coming from servers. You can filter it by your groups or business use, which you haven't configured yet. I'll be showing that to you in this part as well. And then you can say that if this alarm is not cleared within a particular amount of time, this could be hours or minutes. Let's say minutes and one, or let's say hour actually, hour. And if it's not cleared within 1 hour, and then how often should this check be ran? So this should be run every, let's say, 45 minutes. Then you also have the option to exclude acknowledged alarm. So if this alarm is not clear, but however, if someone has acknowledged this alarm and someone is working on it, you don't want it to be escalated. You can choose the box right here. Then OpManager Plus will send a mail through the particular. So I explained to you how you can configure a mail server earlier, right? So yeah, you can from that particular mail server, it will send it to you to the mail server of your preference with the subject and message that you configure. So yeah, you can just say something like escalation and say something like this: alarm isn't cleared. You can also send it as an SMS if you want. You can just provide a mobile number and message here. So once you do that, click on save and your alarm escalation rule will be saved. So another thing, that's how alarm escalation works. Let's move on to alarm correlation. So alarm correlation is a feature in OpManager Plus which will minimize the number of alarms that you have to create, receive, and correlate. So you will have to correlate multiple alarms. So because each alarm is generated for one particular performance metric, you'll have to correlate multiple alarms to find out what's actually wrong with the device, right? Let's say you have a server that goes down, or like the service is out and the users are unable to access it. So there could be multiple causes for this particular thing to happen, right? What if the server could go down by itself due to some fault of its own, or maybe the uplink device to that server, the router, has some temperature spike or some traffic congestion or a configuration update that went wrong, something like that caused the router to go down, which in turn will cause the server to go down, right? To be inaccessible. So how you will figure this out is you'll have to go to the alarms tab and you have to see the various alarms that have been generated, and you have to correlate all this together to find out what actually went wrong. And there's like multiple hassles involved with this. First of all, you have to create all these alarms yourself to all these involved devices. Secondly, you'll receive multiple alarms, which will clutter up your alarms tab, which will obstruct your view. And then finally, you'll have to correlate the various. You have to find out alarms that are relevant to your situation and that are not irrelevant to your situation. And then you'll have to correlate them to find out what actually went wrong. So alarm correlation feature in OpManager will automate all this in one step so that the effort that you have to provide will be minimized. You can find alarm correlation under settings, under configuration settings, alarm correlation rules. You can create rules which will basically club together alarms. So let's say I have a server or a storage device that is prone to overheating, and I want OpManager Plus to monitor both things at once. If the CPU goes up and if the temperature goes up, I want to be alerted. But if only one of those things happen, I don't want to be alerted because it could be something trivial. So I only want to be alerted in case both of these things happen. So I can just create a rule for that. I'm going to call this, it's already done, server overheat rule. I can provide a description if I want. I can choose this from a module of device interfaces or groups. So here the entity. So you'll have to configure like what device you have to set this alarm correlation rule to. I'm gonna apply it to servers only. So I'm gonna apply the filter, and it'll show me all the servers that I have in my installation. Let me choose a particular server that I noted down for this particular issue. See this particular server. So this is what I want to apply this correlation rule to. Now let's click on next, and I'll be able to select criteria. In the criteria, I can choose things like from the various data that's available for these devices. Let me choose performance monitors, and let me choose sensor temperature. If the sensor temperature is greater than or equal to 80 degrees Celsius, that's one rule. And if the, let's say in the performance monitor itself, if the CPU if the availability state is equal to down, then I'll be able to. So if these two criteria happen at the same time, and I'll be able to run this criteria, configure the like customize how often this particular correlation check should be done, and the number of times it should happen for the alarm to be triggered, and whether to apply this during all times of the day or only during a specific time window, using something known as the business hour rule, which I'll explain soon. So currently I'm just applying the profile 24/7. Afterwards, I'll be asked to specify the alarm details. What sort of severity should this alarm happen? So should both temperature and availability go down, temperature go up and availability is marked as down, I should get an alarm that will be critical. And then message I can customize, propagate from which entity, this particular device itself, the notification template, which I'll explain soon, and workflow and so on. I also have the REAM functionalities right here. Again, notifications you can set for REAM and workflows as well. And then once I click on save, this particular correlation rule will be saved. So this will basically save you a lot of effort, because you don't have to create multiple alarms and you don't have to correlate multiple alarms, and your alarms tab will also be much less cluttered, because OpManager Plus will group together, will correlate the various performance metrics. And this is not limited to a single device. You can correlate metrics from multiple devices as well, and you will receive a single alarm for something that's a combination of all this occurring. So this is how alarm correlation works in OpManager Plus. This is still in the beta stage, and it's been recently introduced. Another way you can correlate data from devices is to speed up the fault identification process is by using the root cause analysis feature in OpManager Plus. A root cause analysis profile is a window where you can add devices, and the monitored data from those devices will be in the form of graphs. And then you can correlate those graphs by dragging your cursor along with them. So it's the screenshot right here explains how this works. You'll be able to add data from a single device or from multiple devices into a single window where they'll be stacked up, and then you'll be able to check whether there's any correlation between some event that's happened. This is helpful in situations where you need to analyze data from multiple sources to arrive at a conclusion. For instance, if a server is unavailable, you want to check whether it had anything to do with the network switch that is connected to the network, and so on. Like if there are multiple devices involved in a hierarchy in your network, and you want to check if the events in one device had anything to do with the events in another device, you can use root cause analysis correlation. So there's two ways to start a root cause analysis profile. You can start it from an alarm. So let's say I want to run a root cause analysis for this particular alarm. I just need to choose the root cause analysis option right here. There's no existing root cause analysis, but I can create one by clicking yes. So it will go to that particular device will be loaded right here. I can add more devices to this situation by clicking add or remove entities. Here I'll be able to choose whether it's devices, the category of device, and filter. Then I'll be able to choose the other devices. Let's say that I want to perform a correlation. I'm just simply choosing random devices now, but these devices should be somehow connected for correlation to work, right? Then I'll be able to choose the monitors that I want to add to this root cause analysis profile. Let's say I want to add CPU utilization. So the CPU utilization will be listed right here. I also want to correlate this with the CPU utilization of this device. So I'll just add it right here. Then if it's coming from multiple sources, you need to aggregate you can show it as an aggregated value. Click OK. So now I'll be able to correlate if this spike had anything to do with this device and so on. And this is not limited to the real-time data. You can see it for the past 24 hours, past week, and so on. So this is how root cause analysis profiles work. You can add a lot of metrics here and then correlate them all. And then once you are, if you want to save it, you can give it a name and then save it by clicking save. So now all of this will show up in the alarms tab using the drop-down menu. Go down to root cause analysis. You'll be able to see all the root cause analysis profiles that you've created, and see the one that I've created on right now is shown here. See, and then if you want, you can also create it from this menu itself by choosing the option called create RCA profile. Again, you'll be able to filter devices and then create a root cause analysis profile. So this is another way you can correlate data using OpManager Plus. Performing routine maintenance tasks or simple troubleshooting tasks can take up your valuable time. This includes actions such as running a DNS check or restarting a server. So a lot of the troubleshooting and maintenance, like routine tasks in your network, can often take up a large part of your time. You'll be doing this routine and repetitive tasks over and over again, and you won't be free to do like innovative stuff. You won't be able to do things that require like a lot of innovation. So using OpManager Plus, you can automate such routine and repetitive tasks code-free. That's done by using a workflow, automated workflow. So workflow is an interface where you can drag and drop actions in a sequential manner, and then OpManager Plus will execute those actions based on the outcome of the previous action. So you need to configure three things for a workflow. You need to configure the devices that are associated with the workflow, then the actions that OpManager Plus has to perform on that workflow, and the trigger what will cause the workflow to start and execute. So this will be better explained in the product itself. There's a separate option called workflow itself. In the newer versions of OpManager Plus, it will be listed as automation. Here it's listed as workflow. It's the same. So you can see the existing workflows right here. Let's take a look at the existing workflow. So this is a URL down check. So this will basically, it's a very simple workflow. You'll basically do an HTTP data post, and based on the result, it will send you an alarm. It's a very simple workflow. Let's create a little bit more complicated workflow right now. Let's say when you receive an alarm from your application server, you need to check in the database, in the associated database server, whether the MySQL service is running. If the service isn't running, you want to restart the service and raise a ticket in a help desk tool. So it's a fairly complicated action, right? Let's do that. Click on new workflow. So here you'll be seeing the workflow tab, and you'll see all the actions that you can drag and drop to this workflow. So let's drag and drop the first action. We want to test whether the device is up and running first. If the device is not running, then the whole action is wasted, right? So let's do a quick ping test. So this is the ping device action. Here you'll be able to configure. If you want to ping a specific device, you can configure it right here. Otherwise, it will be applied to the device that you're associating the workflow with. Click OK. So this will have two outcomes: if the device is responding or if it's not responding. If the device is not responding, we need to generate an alarm saying the device is not responding. So alarms will be shown here under OpManager Plus. You'll be having an option called generate alarm. Choose that, and you'll be able to configure everything, including the message of the alarm saying the device is down. Click on OK. Okay, this field has to be populated. We just say device is down. So yeah, now if the ping test is successful, we can do a service test. So service test can be done under Windows Service. We have an option called test a service. So device is up and running, we want to do a service test. And then you'll be able to choose the service. I'm going to choose, as in my example, MySQL. Okay. So now the service test has two outcomes, whether it's successful or unsuccessful. So if the service is down, we need to add another alarm. Let's add that. Add another alarm right here. Again, let's say something like service is down. And then after that, if the service is up, then you can just clear the original alarm. So the workflows can be triggered using alarms or schedules. So this particular workflow, we are planning to trigger it using an alarm. So if the service is up and running, then we don't need this alarm itself, right? So we can clear alarm using the clear alarm action given right here. So it'll just clear the original alarm that caused the workflow to start running. Let's say you generated an alarm saying that a service is down. Now you want to restart that service. You can do that again using this process right here, restart service. and then choose that service that you want to restart. Again, it's MySQL. Click that, and then that will also have two outcomes, right? Whether it's the restart was successful or not. So based on that, you can again generate alarms. You can generate a cleared alarm option. Everything can be configured right here. So you have a variety. You have over 70 actions in this workflow, which you can drag and drop and add to this to create a very complicated, fairly complicated set of actions you can automate. And like I mentioned, if you want to generate a ticket in a help desk tool saying that a particular incident has happened, you can do that here under external actions. You have log a ticket using service Jira and Services Plus, Services Plus Cloud, ServiceNow. All these help desk options are also available here. These are part of OpManager Plus's integration features, which I'll also explain in this part. So once you're done with your workflow, click on next step. It'll ask you to select the devices to associate this workflow with. So just choose the devices that you want to apply this workflow with. Click on this arrow icon, then click next. Then you'll be asked to configure the trigger. What should cause this workflow to act? It can be triggered with an alarm or a schedule. In case of schedule, you'll be able to it'll ask you whether it should be once, daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. Everything can be configured in the schedule option. You can, in the alarm trigger, you can choose various kinds of alarms that could trigger a workflow, like whether it's a general trigger, if the device misses attention severity, whether the hardware is in a problematic condition, so on, whether interface or a switchboard has some problems, whether it's a Windows service alarm that should trigger it. See, I can choose MySQL right here, or whether like all sorts of alarms will be listed here, and you'll be able to like choose them. And then after that, you can choose only notify when the severity is option. This will help you control the number of notifications you're getting from a workflow. After that, you can just click on next, and you'll be asked to give a profile for this workflow. So just gonna give it a random name for time's sake. And yeah, again, you'll be asked to specify the time window or whether it should be applied all the time. If you choose this, you'll be able to choose the time window this should be applied to. You also have an option called delay trigger. If the alarm, this only works with alarm triggers. Basically, if an alarm that triggers the workflow occurs, if you want to delay the workflow start by a certain amount of time, you can do it right here. If I choose 60 minutes, the workflow will only be triggered 1 hour after the alarm that supposed to trigger it occurs. And in the meantime, your technicians can work on the issue themselves. And you can also have this option to ensure that the alarm is, the workflow is not triggered. So you have all sort of options. You also have a recurring trigger option right here. Once you click save, yeah, 60 minutes. Oh yeah, this is because I chose the time window option. I'm just choosing time window as all the time. So afterwards, once you click save, this workflow will be saved right here. So this is how workflows work in OpManager Plus. See, now let's go on to forecasting performance trends. OpManager Plus has another machine learning powered feature that will help you detect performance bottlenecks proactively. This is similar to how adaptive thresholds work. Basically, OpManager Plus analyzes historical data for monitored performance metrics and forecasts them for a 14-day time window. So you can view the forecasted values as an extrapolation of the monitored performance metrics in a graph. So I already explained to you how graphs work. This forecasting basically works on the graph. It will analyze the past data and will extrapolate the expected future data in a graph itself. So let's see this in the product. We can go to a particular device. Let me go to this server right here. Under monitors, I'll be able to see the various monitors that are being used for this device. And to forecast this any particular performance monitor, all you got to do is click on the magnifying glass icon right here, and it will show you the expected forecast. And you'll be able to change the how far into the future you want to forecast it to. You can see it as far as the next 14 days. So this is the expected forecast value, and next 24 hours, and then this week, and so on. So this orange will explain to you the expected value. So this is how forecasts work in OpManager Plus. This is another ML powered feature. So next, we kept on running into this feature, this particular theme called group, right? Whenever we were like creating a even from as far back as like discovery rule engine, or recently while we were configuring workflows or root cause analysis, we all ran into this groups option. So groups in OpManager is a convenient way to arrange devices or interfaces based on your preferences. There is like you can create groups manually using some certain criteria or with custom fields. So before I go on explaining groups, let me quickly explain to you what a custom field is. So custom fields are nodes that you can associate with a device or an interface to identify it in a particular context. For each monitored device or interface, OpManager Plus will have a set of default custom fields that includes things like country, state, building, floor, serial number, etc. So you can provide additional context to a device by specifying these details into the device. So where can you find the custom fields? So go to, we're actually in the inventory page of a snapshot page of a device itself. In the device snapshot page, something called custom fields. So in this particular device, there is no custom fields added. To add custom fields, you just need to click edit, and these are the default custom fields. So yeah, I'll be able to, if I know the data, I'll be able to specify which building this device belongs to, the cabinet, the comments, additional comments regarding this particular device, the contact name, whom to contact for this device, the department, floor, everything will be can be configured here. And if you want to add new custom fields, just click on the plus icon right here, and from a list you can add custom fields. So, and you can import values as well. Now, how do you can add custom fields manually or during discovery itself? I mentioned the CSV file import during discovery, if you remember. And in the CSV file itself, you can specify custom fields for devices. So if you use CSV file import and import devices using a file, if you specify the custom fields in that file, that will also be automatically recorded in the custom fields tab of the snapshot page. Now, now that we covered custom fields, let's see how grouping works. To create a group, go to settings. Under configuration, the first option right here is groups. Select that, and you can create a group by choosing create group option. You can specify the group name. I'm just going to call it test group. And next, you can choose it from, you can create a group of devices. You can create a group of interfaces. And if you have a pre-existing set of groups, you can create a group of groups as well. I'm just going to choose devices for the time being. You can choose devices from a list you have manually. That's one option. Then you can add devices using criteria if you want. So criteria involves things like, let's say DNS name, category, type. So this is the same kind of filter that we mentioned in the first part. So criteria equals, let's say, server. Sorry. Yeah. And you can see match any of the following or all of the following. Let's say type equals Windows 2016 for the time being. Yeah. So once I click next, all the devices that belong to this particular filter will be listed for me to choose, and I can choose them. Click save. So this group will be created. Now, this is how you can create groups using criteria. Now, another thing how this works is that whenever new devices that follow this criteria are added to the network, they will also be automatically added to this group. So the group will be automatically updated. Now, there's a new feature in OpManager Plus called custom field based smart grouping. So I mentioned custom fields, right? And even in the criteria stage of the groups, I can just, let me quickly show you. Even in the criteria stage of the group, you have an option to choose devices based on custom fields that you provide, right? This is very handy because you might want to group devices based on the building they are placed in or the department they belong to, things like that. So even in this stage, using criteria, you can use custom fields. Another smart grouping feature in OpManager Plus is that OpManager Plus analyzes device and interface custom fields and suggests potential groups. So if a certain count of devices or interfaces share similar custom field values, then OpManager Plus will prompt you asking, like telling you that these devices could be grouped together based on their custom fields. And when you approve it, a group will be created automatically. So when it comes to both criteria-based grouping and smart grouping, the custom field-based smart grouping, any new device that are discovered in the network that satisfy the criteria or share the same custom fields will be added to the group automatically. So this is how grouping works in OpManager Plus. Let me go back to the presentation. Now let's talk about the various notification profiles and channels that you have in OpManager Plus. So as a network administrator, you cannot keep looking at OpManager Plus's UI at all the time, right? So you'll receive alerts using the alarms tab, and also using this option right here, you'll be able to see all the recent alarms. But you can't keep looking at the interface all day, right? This is where notification can be helpful. The notification profiles give you multiple channels to receive certain alarms outside OpManager Plus using emails or SMS and so on. So to configure notification profiles, go to settings, and you have under notification settings, you have notification profiles and notification templates. Both are mostly the same, except the notification templates are just templates that you can later associate with the set of devices, while notification profiles in the creation stage itself, you have to associate it with a certain set of devices. So these are the two existing notification profiles that I have. Let me add another one, clicking add. And here I'll have various options available. So see, we have multiple channels. Like you can send a notification via email, you can send a notification via SMS using a chat, you can run a system command, you can run programs, you can log a ticket using help desk solutions. Similarly, you can also create notification profiles using syslog profiles, trap profiles, webhooks, and so on. Sorry for the interruption. Let me continue. So these are the various notification profile options that are available for you. So if you want to create a notification profile, just click on the channel that you want to. So I'm just choosing email. And here you'll be able to configure the from address, the to address, the mail format. You'll be able to customize the mail that you receive. And yeah, and then you'll be able to choose from a subject variables, whether you want to include a device type and other factors in the IP address. Everything you choose will be added to the subject itself. So even from the subject, you'll be understanding what device has caused the alarm and what's the status. You can test the action right here. Once you click on next, you can choose the alarms that will trigger this notification profile. This is very important. So you don't want your notification to be triggered for every single alarm out there, right? Because that will be very difficult for you to, it'll be cluttered. Your inbox will be cluttered and you won't be understanding anything. So you can choose whether to trigger a notification for if the device is down for attention trouble or critical severity. Again, just the same as the workflow that we saw before, you can choose the type of alarm that will trigger this notification profile. And then you also have the same option, whether to notify only when the severity is critical, trouble, attention, service down, so on. Click next. Okay, I have to choose at least one criteria. I haven't chosen any. Let me just say device is down for critical severity. And then click next. And then I'll be able to associate this notification profile with a set of devices. So again, you can filter it based on the groups and the infrastructure views, business views, and all. I'll explain soon. So, or I can just choose from the existing inventory of devices that I have. Just choose the devices, click on the icon and click next. I have the option again to apply this 24/7 or during a specific time window. And the same one, delay trigger, recurrent trigger, everything I can configure right now. Click next. And this is the template of the email that we'll receive. Once I click save, right, there's a name for the profile. I'm just going to call it test profile for the time being. Click save, and this will be saved right here. So if I want, I can like just create more profiles for other options, SMS, everything. So this is how notification profiles work in OpManager Plus. Now we saw that there's like this option called log a ticket, both in notification profile and in workflows. What is this? So OpManager Plus supports a variety of integrations that can speed up your IT workflows. So logging a ticket in a help desk solution is part of an integration between OpManager Plus and a help desk tool. In addition to help desk, OpManager Plus also supports a variety of other integrations. You can see all the integrations under settings and under general settings, something called integrations. To choose that, you can see the list of all the existing integrations in OpManager Plus. So let me just talk about help desk quickly. You can choose this option to filter out only the help desk options. So we have integrations with Service Desk Plus, which is ManageEngine's own help desk solution, also with ServiceNow and Jira Service Management. How does this integration work? So basically, OpManager Plus can automatically log a ticket in your help desk solution. So in case something goes wrong in network, you want your network technicians to be aware of it, right? Instead of your users being aware of it first and then raising a ticket and a help desk solution, it would be much better if automatically OpManager Plus itself can generate a ticket, which will be much faster. So the moment something is about to go wrong, OpManager Plus will detect it using the alarms that you set or using the adaptive threshold AI-powered alarms that you set. It'll just create an alarm, and that alarm will in turn raise a ticket in your help desk solution. That way, even your IT technicians will see the ticket and will be able to start working on it immediately, instead of, let's say, for users to experience a problem and then raise a ticket. So that's how the link between OpManager Plus and help desk tools work. And when it comes to Service Desk Plus, you can also configure what service technician this ticket should be associated to. So even at that stage, you'll narrow down the ticket. Like even when the alarm is raised, the technician themselves will be automatically associated with the ticket. So you can do all that. Another option you have with Service Desk Plus is that you can sync OpManager's network maps with Service Desk Plus asset maps, which is a feature in both the products that I'll explain. Basically, OpManager Plus can like I mentioned in the first part, this is a feature called Layer 2 Maps, where OpManager Plus discovers and maps the link layer, the layer 2 of your network. This particular map can be synced with Service Desk Plus so that the Service Desk Plus technicians will always have an updated picture of the network when they are about to fix any issues. So such features are available using help desk integrations. In addition to help desk, we also have alert management tools, which is ManageEngine Alarms one. We have with chat tools. So with chat tools, the default integrations, out of the box integrations available is for Slack and Microsoft Teams, which means that you can raise your alarms as in a group chat or in any of the chats. Like if you have a common chat with all your technicians, and if you want them to be aware of any issues, you can create a notification profile to raise an issue as a chat in Slack or in Microsoft Teams. Similarly, you also have integration with IT automation integration with Ansible. So this is another feature which is similar to workflow. Basically, Ansible is a much more popular tool. You can create alarms, and alarms can trigger workflows in Ansible. It's called as playbooks. You can trigger automated playbooks in Ansible using OpManager's alarms, OpManager Plus's alarms. That's another integration feature. You also have monitoring, which is Applications Manager, which I'll explain in the fifth part, which is application monitoring. And you also have integrations with SIEM tools like ManageEngine Log 360. This is a log analysis tool. So you have all these default, out of the box integration options available. These are all configured in OpManager Plus's interface by default. Now, what if you want to create an integration with something that's not given here? That you can do using new custom integration. So here you'll be able to provide, let's say I want to integrate OpManager Plus with WhatsApp. I'll be able to give it a name, description. Then this could be an incident management integration, an event management integration, or a chat integration. So if this WhatsApp in this case is a chat integration, so I can choose chat, and then I'll be able to configure the additional details, like it's a URL post, put, delete, patch, or head. So based on this, I'll be able to configure the URL and the webhook. So OpManager Plus uses webhooks to integrate with chat tools. So you will be able to configure the details of the webhooks right here, then a data form, the payload type, the body content, and so on. After that, you can click save. Similarly, you can create integration with incident management tools. If the help desk solution that you have is not given by default, you can just create a custom integration. So custom integration, the potential is basically limitless. You can create custom integrations with any tools that support REST API or webhooks. So that's how that works. These are all the integration options available in OpManager Plus. Now, we covered most of the general topics in this part of the free training series. Let's look into something called as a data collection manager. So data collection manager feature in OpManager Plus is a watchdog that helps improve your polling efficiency by reducing unnecessary polling load on your OpManager Plus server. So let's take an interface like Ethernet and assume that you're monitoring it at an interval of 5 minutes. If the monitor responds, it will remain in a normally monitored state. However, if OpManager Plus fails to get a response for, say, 6 hours, it is moved to a suspended state. Here, the device will be monitored at a much delayed polling interval of, say, every 4 hours for the next 10 days. If there's still no response, it's moved to a disabled state. So data collection manager is a means in OpManager, a mechanism in OpManager that will help you improve your polling efficiency. Instead of wasting polling on devices that are not responding, It'll move the devices that are not responding to a suspended state first. And if it's still not responding, it'll move it to a disabled state afterwards, where you can review those devices and those monitors and see what's wrong with them. Instead of continuously monitoring like things that are not responding, they'll be moved to a different state. And this will save OpManager Plus servers polling load, and will also increase your polling efficiency. So how this works is like, yeah, again, everything will be monitored using the intervals that you set. This 5 minutes is the interval that you set. If it does not respond for a specified time period, let's say 6 hours, it will be moved to a suspended state. And in the suspended polling interval, it will be monitored as a much delayed interval, let's say 4 hours. This also you can configure. And again, if it's not responding to that delayed polling interval for another specified time interval, like say 10 hours, it will be moved to disabled state. If it succeeds, it will be moved back to normal. Where can you find data collection manager? So in OpManager Plus, on the top right side, you have this support icon. Click that. And under self-support, you have something called diagnostics. Choose that, and you'll see all the devices that are like either in disabled state or failed state. These are all the suspended ones. That is, they are not responding to normal polling, so they move to suspended state. And in settings, you'll be able to change the time period that I mentioned before, whether to suspend poll after, like how many hours after should you suspend the poll. So if you want your polls to be suspended after 3 hours, you can choose that right here. And then once they're moved to a suspended state, what is the delayed poll interval? Again, you can choose it right here. And then after that, in the delayed poll interval in the suspended state, how long should polling be tried for? And then you can choose that, let's say 5 days. And then after that, whether you also have the option to disable poll completely, which means that monitors which are not responding on 5-hour delayed polls for 5 days will be completely disabled. That's one option. Or you can retry them every 24 hours. That's the option that I've given here. So anyways, all the devices will be listed right here, where I will be able to inspect it. And so the reason for the disabled poll interval is also shown. So anyways, this is how data collection manager works in OpManager Plus. Now, we moved on to the second last topic of this particular free training series. Time is already a bit tight, so I'll cover this quickly. It's called network mapping in OpManager. So you can map, you have multiple format maps to represent data in different ways. That's convenient for you in OpManager Plus. So we already explained layer 2 maps, which is basically an automated network topology map that is updated using scheduled rediscovery. So it's basically a representation of your network topology. Then you have something called a business view, which is a map that you can build yourself by dragging and dropping network devices into a customizable background. So this is completely customizable by you. While the layer 2 map is actually a representation of the topology of the network, you can just add the critical devices to a business view yourself, and you can customize things like the icon of the device, the background of the map, and so on. Then you have something called a rack builder or the 3D flow view. Basically, you'll be able to add servers to a representation of a server rack using the rack builder. And then afterwards, you can add the racks to a 3D view of the data center floor. So this will help you visualize your data centers, how they work. And you'll be also able to see devices that are in the red here. OpManager Plus also has an integration with Google and Zoho Maps. So it will basically be an interactive map of the world, and you'll be able to drop your devices into different locations. If you have a distributed network, this will give you a whole picture, a big picture of where your devices are and also the state. And also OpManager Plus has a virtual mapping feature. This is basically an automated mapping of the virtual environment. So you'll be able to see your host, your VMs, the data stores, and everything in a single map. So let me show you where all the mapping features are. As expected, they are here under maps. So here you'll be able to see all the maps. So to create a layer 2 map, just click on the plus icon. I already explained this to you in the first part of the free training series, how you can create this. And then you have the existing layer 2 maps right here. Just give it a moment. So this is a very simple one. And yeah, so this is updated automatically. So a couple of devices are missing from this map now because it was updated with a scheduled rediscovery. Similarly, you also have virtual maps right here, VMware. So click on this. You'll see the virtual map, and you have the options to choose what connection should be shown here. What if I just want to see the host to data store connections? Apply, and only those will be shown, and so on. So this is how virtual maps work. And you have virtual maps for VMware, Hyper-Vs, and Nutanix, etc. Business views, you can see in the business views tab. This is a sample business view that we have. See, again, this map is actually a customizable background image that we added later. To create a business view, just click on create new. So you'll have available elements all listed on the left side. These are all the devices that are available. You can just drag and drop your device. So one device. To create a link, just click on the chain icon right here. Then link them together, and you'll be able to explain what type of link this is. It could be an interface of your device, and then you can, again, on the other side, you can choose interface. You can choose the label name, the color of the label, the arrow type. Everything can be configured right here. Similarly, you can add all your devices. So this is helpful because you can only add the critical devices and the way they are linked together in a business view. So once you do that, you can just click on save and it will be saved. So yeah, this is sample business view. So that's how business views work. Again, Zoho or Google Map integration. This is Zoho Maps. You can just drag and drop and add devices. To add device in a particular location, just double click, and you'll be able to choose whether you can add devices or groups, and you can add your devices right here. It's added, and you'll be able to see the status of the device zooming out. So yeah, you can add as many devices as you want in the map and Google/Zoho Maps feature. Then you have the 3D flow views and rack views. Again, to create a rack view, you can just add your devices to a server rack, so on. And then once you click on save, okay. Yeah, this is an existing name. So yeah, so there's a rack that we created. Now, if you want to create a flow view, just click on add floor, and then you can add the racks that you created to the floor. And yeah, there you go. So a floor view is created. Now it will show you a 3D representation of the floor. This is a 2D view. And if you want, it'll show you a 3D view. So this is clearly just an example that I've shown you. You can add many racks and create a faithful representation of your data center floor using this feature. So these are all the mapping features available in OpManager Plus. Okay, let's move on to the dashboards and reports, dashboards and NOC views in OpManager Plus. You've already seen the dashboards multiple times throughout the duration of this free training series. So dashboards are basically a collection of widgets, important widgets that you can configure. So this is a default dashboard in OpManager Plus. To see all the other default dashboard options, you can just see it here. So you have in the overview dashboards, you have 3 options: enterprise, system performance, and real-time dashboard. System performance dashboard will show you the performance of various disks and various systems in your, this is performance-oriented dashboard. You have other options like network. You have a default set of network dashboards for servers, for virtualization, storage, NetFlow, configuration management. Everything has their own specialized dedicated dashboards. Now, if you want to create your own dashboard, just click on custom dashboard where you have create new dashboard option. You'll be able to specify the name and description for this dashboard. Just gonna create a quick name. And here you'll be able to choose the widgets that you want to add to the dashboard. And if you want to create a widget, you have a create widget option as well. Here you'll be able to add monitored metrics to your as a widget. So this is how dashboards and widgets can be created. A NOC view or a network operation center view is like a CCTV. It's a repeated dashboard which will keep on refreshing by itself. So it's useful for when you have a network operation center. So this is a sample NOC view. When you have a network operation center and you want to see the details in a quick, like in the CCTV format, which will like auto refresh and show you a different view every like 51 seconds is shown here. So this is how a NOC view works. You can create a NOC view under again. Go to when the drop down menu, go to NOC views and create NOC view, and you'll be able to add various widgets and create various dashboards. Actually, you can add multiple dashboards to a NOC view and then show it. So this is how NOC views and dashboards work in OpManager Plus. Let's move on to reports. So reports are very useful in decision making in today's fast-paced environments, right? So let's say you need to review a lot of data to make your decisions, and reports are one way to do that. So in OpManager Plus, you can access all the reports here under the reports tab. You have more than 100 plus default reports available with OpManager Plus. So let's say you want to see system reports. Here you'll see a report for all alerts or active alerts and so on. Again, under, let's say, storage reports, you'll be able to see reports related to storage. These are all default reports that is already available with OpManager Plus. So some reports may not have data because that's not available. Then let's see, Nutanix reports. You have various Nutanix related reports, so on. And virtual service report, you'll be able to see the details of all virtual machines, and then things like number of vCPUs, total memory. So these are all existing reports, right? And you have so many reports to choose from various modules as well. Now, let's say, what if you want to create a new report for yourself, which is not available by default in OpManager Plus? So you can do that and advanced report. So in advanced report, you can just basically provide a name and then just choose various columns, various sources of data. So you have things like under general columns, you have things like custom fields. So let's say I want a report which lists all these custom fields, and then let's say general properties or availability monitors, availability percentage. From performance monitors, I want to see CPU utilization, and so on. So this is basically all the selected columns. Once I save this, I'll get a report of all these columns. So you can basically, and then you can also do things like you can group them by columns. You can apply criteria for the certain data. So if you don't want all the data from a particular, so you've added a set of columns, right? And if you don't want to see data from all of those columns, you can apply criteria to, let's say you only want to see data for servers. You can just create a criteria for category equals server, like I showed you earlier. You can also filter the report based on period, like what data, what time from which you have to pull the data from. So all of this can be done in the advanced reports feature. So this is how advanced reports work. Like I just explained this. Now we have another ML powered feature called forecast reports, which is basically a report which will tell you the number of days left till a particular system resource like CPU, memory, or disk space is left. So this is a report format of forecast. Just go to reports. Under OpManager Plus reports, you have, let's say, forecast reports. Choose that, and you have the existing. These are the only forecast reports that are available currently. So if you want to see this forecast report for CPU, just click on that, and it will be populated soon. So here you'll see all the devices and the protocols that are monitored with the current CPU utilization levels and the prediction for the CPU utilization to reach 80%, 90%, 100%. So all of this will be predicted using ML. So again, for things like disk space and all, this is very useful because you can perform capacity planning for your servers by looking at this report. This will give you an insight, like how many days you have left till you have to make a purchase or increase the scale up the server and so on. So this is forecast reports. Let's move on back to the presentation and look at final topic, that is business hour rules. So we already saw business hour rules multiple times. So business hour rules is a way to basically specify the working days or hours from which you want to collect data. So this is useful in the case of reports, notifications, workflows, everything that we saw. Even in alarm correlation and all, business hour rules can be applied. To see business hour rules, just click on reports, and under report settings, you have business hour rules. Choose that, and you'll be able to specify a particular time period for, you can just give it a name, and you can just specify the time for each day of the week. So that's how you create business hour rules. OpManager Plus is globally recognized and decorated by trusted and popular review platforms. These are some of the recent recognitions we have received in network monitoring, IT infrastructure monitoring, and applications monitoring market segments. So we are proud to announce now that we have been recognized by Gartner in its 2024 Voice of the Customer for Observability Platforms report, and we are recognized as a customer choice vendor. So customer choice vendors are ranked top in both the overall customer experience and overall user interest and adoption. So what this means is that a lot of users are using our solutions and they're also satisfied with it. That's why we are ranked in the top quadrant, which is customer choice. We are actively sharing insights, articles, and infographics related to the ITOM space. So if you don't want to miss out, join our LinkedIn crew. Once again, we thank you for attending the free training series. We hope to see you for the fourth part, which will talk about advanced IT operations management features in OpManager Plus. Goodbye.